السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله الأحد القهار وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Indeed, all praise and thanks belongs to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Alone we seek His help and His assistance and guidance. He whom Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala guides, there is none that can misguide him. And he whom Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala leads astray, there is none that can guide him except through the will and permission of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala alone. And I bear witness and testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib al-Hashmi al-Qurashi was the final messenger and prophet sent to all of mankind. O you who believe, fear Allah as He deserves to be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam, do not die except that you are Muslims. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah, we continue on in our reading of Riyaad As-Saliheen and in the chapter of patience. Now the next hadith that we have with us is about a story that was given to us by the Prophet ﷺ, and also this story was preserved for us and mentioned also in the Quran. Now this story, my brothers and sisters, is a story that has a lot of lessons for us today. And it is the story of a boy and the king. Now this hadith from the 9 books of hadith is mentioned in 3. In Sahih Muslim, in Jami' al-Tirmidhi, and in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. And it has also been mentioned in the various tafasir, like Tafsir ibn Kathir and Al-Qurtubi and Al-Tabari, in Surah Al-Buruj, where the mention of Ashab al-Ukhdud is mentioned, the people of the ditch. Now this hadith is long. This hadith is almost 2 pages, so we won't be able to read, because of time constraints, the entire Arabic, but we will go through the entire story. And the benefit of this is that we can make mention of the various narrations that come to us, that which is found in Musnad Imam Ahmad and that which is found in Jami' al-Tirmidhi, because the only narration that's given to us in Riyaad As-Saliheen is the narration of Imam Muslim rahimahullah. And there are some variations and extra pieces of information that we find in the other narrations. So the hadith, my brothers and sisters, is that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says that there was a king from those who came before you. There was a king from those who came before you. Now, there is a difference of opinion from the scholars of tafsir who delved into this wording. Who was this king and when was before you? So there are various narrations. However, we don't have anything solid to hold and establish who was this king and what was his name. We know everything in this hadith is correct, but certain information we don't have. Now what is important to note is that it was before Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and some of the scholars have stated that it was from the time of Isa alayhi salam all the way up until before Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Some scholars even stated that it happened 40 years before Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, but we don't have anything solid to establish what time it was. Now where this king ruled, some of the scholars have stated Najran, which is in Yemen. And there are other places that could be potentially the place of this story, but again, we don't have that knowledge, and that is just opinion. But something that is important to note is that Najran is probably the strongest place that this could have been, because it is narrated in some of the texts of hadith and in the texts of history that in the time of Umar radiallahu anh, they found the grave of this boy. And we will get to that insha'Allah. Now, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says that there was a king from the people who came before you, and he had a magician, he had a sorcerer, he had a wizard. Now this magician was one of the closest people to the king, this king specifically. So the hadith continues and says that when this magician, he became old, he said to the king that indeed I have become old, and I want you to send to me a young boy. I want you to choose specifically someone young for me, that I can teach him my tradition, my path, the way that I am upon, the way that you want me to be. Let me pass on this knowledge to someone else. Now this is very, very important for two reasons. The first reason is that you are responsible for your kids. You are responsible for your children. And you have to understand that the tarbiyah that you bring your children up with is what is going to either mold them and shape them or not. And you have to be understanding in this society today that if you leave anyone else to bring up your children, then don't blame yourself. Don't blame anyone else but yourself if the wolves are raising your children. Shaitan from humankind and jinn kind are looking for your children. They want to shape them according to their way. This is from the time before An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this reigns today true. Subhanallah, I have a nephew who lives in Melbourne, and he just started kindergarten this year. This year. It wasn't a single week, except in public school, that he came home with a letter from his school saying that we are going to have a gender studies segment in the day, and we need your authority for them to allow to teach a kindergarten student who hasn't been in the school for a day. For a day. It wasn't a full week and that came in kindergarten. Why? Why is there such an effort to get to our children? Because whatever you teach a child stays with him till the day he dies. Whatever you teach a child, the scholars of the Salaf would say that teaching a child in his young age is like etching into stone. It's as if you're writing into stone. That's not going to come off. No rust is going to take it away. No amount of rain, wind, whatever it is, that's going to stay there. Until that stone is there, that etching is going to be there. So look at this story over here. It starts off with this sorcerer saying, I want someone young so I can shape him and mold him. I want someone young so I can shape him according to what I am upon. Don't be surprised. They want your children. Yes, they want your children. The shayateen from the humankind and the jinn kind, so that they can take them upon their way. And we know this is true in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that every child is born upon the fitrah, upon the natural disposition, upon being a Muslim, understanding that he has a creator, understanding the way that everything is supposed to be. But who takes them away? The parents. The parents take them away from this natural disposition. So over here we understand that children are susceptible. Whatever you introduce around them, whatever you teach them, that's what they're going to take. So be mindful to parent over your children, and don't blame others if they parent your children. You gave them up. You didn't feel your responsibility as being a ra'i, as being a shepherd to your flock. Now, the hadith continues. And then he says that this child was brought to the sorcerer, and he began to teach him the means of magic. Now, something that is important, my brothers and sisters, is to understand that since magic was present on earth, it has been haram to partake in. Since its inception in this world, since it began in this world, it has always been something as being a forbidden science. It is a science. It has rules, it has methods, it has teachings. But it is something that we are not allowed to delve into. And some people tried to blame the prophets and messengers and said that we don't do this out of ourselves. We are following the way of Sulaiman alayhi salam. And they accused Sulaiman alayhi salam as being a wizard and being one who partook in magic. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala found this crime so heinous, He needed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to lift this blame of Sulaiman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَمَا كَفَرَ سُلَيْمَانُ وَلَكِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ كَفَرُوا. Sulaiman did not disbelieve. The shayateen, the devils, they disbelieved. Why? Why did they disbelieve? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, يُعَلِّمُونَ النَّاسَ السِّحْرِ. They were teaching the people magic. This was enough for what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say that they were disbelievers. Now, since that time, when Harut and Marut were teaching magic by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a trial, as a fitna, as a test to see who will be upright and who wouldn't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says about this occasion, He says, وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ حَتَّى يَقُولَا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. Before they would teach anybody this magic, they would say, both of them, both angels would say, don't take from us, we are just a fitna, we are just a trial, do not disbelieve. Do not disbelieve. Don't do this. If you take this knowledge, you will become a disbeliever. And they still took it. So since magic has existed in this earth, it has been haram to partake in. So whether it is that you want to get married and you want to make someone fall in love with you, or someone has left you and you think you can go to some magician and he can bring them back, or you want to wear something to protect you, and when you open it up it's got devilish numbers and devilish claims calling onto shayateen and jinn, then understand that what you are doing is haram. What you are doing is not permissible in any way, shape or form, and can take you out of the fold of Islam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His protection. The story continues, and it says that as he would walk towards the sorcerer, he happened to fall upon a hermit, someone who was secluded, someone who didn't integrate with the people, someone who was by himself, perhaps in a cave, but the translation is just generally a hermitage, which means he was a hermit who lived by himself. Now, he went in to this place where this person was, a hermit who was a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of the scholars have stated that he was upon the path of Isa alayhi salam, and he maintained the laws that were given to Isa alayhi salam. So he was worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon Islam. So what happened was that he sat with this worshipper. He sat with this worshipper, and the worshipper gave him da'wah, and he liked what he heard. And so it was something that was instilled in his heart. The da'wah of Islam had now approached him, and he liked it, the hadith says. فَعَجَبَهُ. He liked what he heard. Now, The hadith continues and says that when he would, after sitting with this hermit, with this worshipper, he would go to the sorcerer would become upset. Why are you late? Why are you late? And he would beat him up. He would attack him and abuse him. And then, in the tradition of At-Tirmidhi, we see that when he would go back to his family, they would say, why are you late? And they would beat him up. He doesn't get any raha from either side. Why are you late when he goes to his class with the magician? And when he comes back home, why are you late? Because you're coming back late. He's getting beaten up from both sides. So now he goes and he complains to who? The worshipper. And he says, I go to my sorcerer, my teacher, the magician, and when I come late, he beats me up. And when I go back home, my family beats me up. What do I do? And so the worshipper, he says to him that when you go to the magician, say that my family held me back. What can he do then? Khalas, he's not going to beat you up. He has to go beat up your family. There's no telephone then, there's no fax. Where is your child? Your child is absent from school. There's nothing, none of that, right? So if you just say, my mum kept me, my dad kept me, what's he going to say? And then when he goes back home, he says, tell your parents that your sorcerer, your magician, your teacher, he kept you back. Right? So it's like a good fix either way. Right? He's got like a blank doctor's note that he can just show. I was late, I'm sorry. It happened. قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. Now the family knew that this is upon the order of the king. He's going there. They have no option. So khalas, the magician kept him back, so no one's going to beat him up. Okay? Problem here. He told him to lie. The magician didn't keep him back, nor did his family keep him back. He's just going there to study Islam. He's studying the deen with this worshipper. So now we have to understand that there are certain times where lying is permissible in this faith. Very certain restricted times. Okay? I want you all to listen very carefully so no one takes home and runs with it. There are a few times. One is when there are two people who have drama and you try to fix it through a lie. So for instance, you're sitting in a majlis, not in a masjid like this, because inshallah that doesn't happen in a masjid. But then one person swears about another person. Okay? He says, so and so, he is 1, 2, and 3. A liar, cheater, this is that. And so someone else in the group goes and tells him, like a fattan, right? He goes, just wants fitna, and says, you know what he said about you? Right? You know what he said? And then this person then comes to you. You were there. I heard you were there. Someone told me. Did you hear him say 1, 2, and 3? I need to make sure. And then you say over here, no. He didn't say that. He was talking about someone else. And then you try to fix the issue. Right? Over here there's a maslaha of making sure there's brotherhood. And so you fixed an issue over here. Another time is in war. For instance, if a Muslim general in a Muslim army, which has its conditions, they have, for instance, an objective that they want to go and conquer a certain place. And if someone asks them, are you going to go conquer so-and-so place? They go, no, we wouldn't do that. No, we're not going to do that. So over here he's lied, but for an objective, which is war. And the third one, which is most beloved to the brothers, is that you can lie to your wife sometimes for a certain objective. If she says, for instance, I'm the most beautiful person on earth, do you find me attractive, or do you think that I look big in this, or whatever you wanna take, right? And you can say over here, because you can't say she's the most beautiful person on earth. You haven't seen every girl, and you can't see every girl. So the sisters in the second floor. I thought because this is down, khalas, no sisters. Now the door was locked today for a reason. Astaghfirullah. Now over here you can say, yes, you're the most beautiful. You don't look big in the ears. Whatever it is, right? You keep that in your private doors. Don't tell anyone about it. But there's a specific objective here. Because if you say the truth, you're going to break her heart. This isn't a get out of jail card. Were you looking at her? No. Did you talk to her? No. It's not a get out of jail card where you can get out of any sin that you want. I can lie to my wife. Stop playing with the religion, okay? It's not a blanket thing that you can go and run with it and you can do whatever you want. But over here, the scholars have said there are masalih and mafasid. Good things and bad things that can happen from something of your lying. So over here, this rahib, this worshipper, he saw it appropriate to give him this way out so that he would not be abused, either both at home and with his magician. So for the sake of what? For the sake of da'wah. So that he can learn Islam. Because over here, if he doesn't learn Islam, he's learning magic, which is kufr. So over here, if someone has, for instance, from the young'uns, someone has parents who don't like them coming to the masjid. And wallahi, I know this. I've heard of this. It exists today, now. It exists. Right? Or parents like, no, don't go over there, you're going to become radical. You become Wahhabi and that. Don't do that. Don't hang with them, that sheikh. He studied in Saudi. He's one of them Najdi ones. No, don't do that. Over here, you can say I'm going to another masjid, for instance. I'm not going to say which one. You can say you're going somewhere else to another class. You can do that for the sake of what? Da'wah. Not to hang out with your friends, not to go to a party, not to go to somewhere else that you're not supposed to, but for a specific reason. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an increase in understanding, Ya Rab. Now, so the hadith continues. And then he says one time he was walking and he saw that the people were stopped on the road. What had happened was that a group of people were just stopped in the road because there was a beast that was there. In Jami' al-Tirmidhi, it tells us what this beast was. It was a lion. It was a lion that was stopping the path. Now, I don't know if you've seen a lion. Lions are scary, okay? So there was a lion that was not allowing anyone to go past. And if anyone was going to go past, it'd be crazy because they're going to get eaten by a lion. Back in the days, right? Before Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, those lions probably were bigger, scary. Desert lions, freaky, right? This is in Yemen maybe. It's not like the jungles. This is like a lion, right? Continuing. So he says, اليوم أعلم الساحر أفضل أم الراهب أفضل. He says, today I will know. The boy is saying, today I will know. Is the magician better or is the worshipper better? Today I'm going to find out. I'm going to use what I've learned from both sides and we're going to try to make a way where we can figure out which one is stronger. The way of the magician or the way of the worshipper. فأخذ حجرا. So he picks up a stone. He takes a rock. فقال اللهم إن كان أمر الراهب أحب إليك من أمر الساحر فاقتل هذه الدابة حتى يمضي الناس. He says, oh Allah, if the way of the worshipper is more beloved and better to you than the way of the magician, then kill this beast using this stone. Kill this lion. So I'm going to throw it. Oh Allah, if the way of the worshipper is stronger, is better to you, then kill this beast. So then the hadith continues and he says, so he threw it and the beast died. Now over here, something that is important is that this young boy, he wanted one thing, the correct path. He didn't say which one is just stronger, which one's going to get me more worldly benefit, which one's going to be better for me, for the people. He says, what is going to be better to you, Ya Allah? Whatever is going to be better to you, Ya Allah, make it apparent to me, Ya Allah. I want to know, is this worshipper, is just making up stuff now? He doesn't know. Is that what you really want, Ya Allah? Or do you want me to go and learn magic from this? This is what I see in front of me. This is what's in power. This is what's apparent. This is what's popular. This is what everyone wants to see. Is that going to be better, Ya Allah? So he already knew, right? He was already, mashallah. This is why, subhanallah, this boy is special. He wanted one thing, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when he threw this stone and killed this lion using just a stone, it's something that's unnatural. In Jami' Tirmidhi, it says he became famous. He became famous. He killed a beast by a rock, and everyone knew who he was because he was the king's appointed student for the magician. And the magician was someone who was respected because he was close with the king. Enough so that he can just say to the king, bring me someone, Ya Allah. He's ordering the king, bring me someone. So he was very close with the king. So everyone knew this boy. And now they understood his power. They understood his power. He's able to kill lions with rocks. So now people would come to him. People would come to him. But before that, after this thing had happened, he went to the worshipper and he said that today this happened. So the worshipper says, today you have become better than me. اليوم يا أي بني أنت اليوم أفضل مني. Today you are better than me. And then he says, I see in you what you have reached from the understanding of this religion, and now you have yaqeen in your heart, conviction that Allah is true and that the way of Allah is the correct path. Now you're upon complete certainty. So he says, you are going to be trialed. There's going to be fitna now. And when you are trialed, please do not tell them about me. Don't guide them to me. Because if they guide them to what's going to happen? He's going to be punished, this worshipper, for doing the da'wah. So then when he became famous, this boy, now people started coming to them with their problems. So, وَكَانَ الْغُلَامُ يُبْرِئُ الْأَكْمَهَ وَالْأَبْرَصِ. People would come to him with problems that they were either lepers, right, with diseases, actual disease that did not have cures. And they would come to him and he would cure them. He would cure them by what? He would cure them by the dua that he would make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the hadith continues. And one of the king's closest advisors, hears about this young boy. So the problem was with this advisor was that he was blind. So he had a good position. What's the point of having a good position when you're blind? You can't enjoy, you can't see anything, right? So he had amassed a great amount of wealth. So he heard about this boy, so he took everything that he could give. And he went to the boy and he said, if you cure me, this is all for you. If you cure me, this is all for you. Everything that you want. Whatever you want. I have the material. I'm close to the king. I'm in the court of the king. I'm one of his advisors. So the problem is here, is that now, this is the first time that dunya is now approaching this child. This is the first trial and temptation. When you come upon the straight path, don't think it's going to be an easy way. No, Allah will send trials and tribulations and tests to see if you are going to be of the truthful. And the easiest thing to fall into is the temptation of wealth. It's the easiest thing to fall into. And he could have said, yeah, I got you. I'll take you, I'll cure you, I'll fix it up. Whatever you want, I'll sort it out. Whatever you want, I got you. I got a connection, right? He could have taken it, amassed the wealth for himself, become famous, even more famous than the wizard, the magician. But over here, he remained firm upon his faith. So, what did he say? فَقَالَ إِنِّي لَا أَشْفِي أَحَدًا إِنَّمَا يَشْفِي اللَّهُ تَعَالَى. That I don't cure anyone, but indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who cures. فَإِنْ آمَنْتَ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى دَعَوْتُ اللَّهِ فَشَفَاكَ. If you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I will call unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He will be the one who cures you. He will be the one who cures you, but what? You have to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. So now not only is he doing khair, he's doing da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's spreading the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he is making sure that no one misunderstands and gives him the attention. No. The one who is a shafi is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who cures. I am just the one who is making dua for you. Okay. Now, the hadith continues, and he says, فآمن بالله تعالى فشفاه الله تعالى. He believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this close advisor of the king, and he was cured by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By what? The dua of this young boy and his faith. So over here, something that is important to note is that there are a lot of people who cure people by spitting on microphones. Has anyone seen those videos? Has everyone seen? Yeah, the Desis know what I'm talking about here. Right? There's a guy who goes around the world and he just blows on a microphone, and people are holding on all the places that they have like pains in and stuff, and he goes, and the echo fixes the issue. Right? Astaghfirullah. Or people will say, if you come to me, I have a certain ruqya I will do for you, and it'll cure you from whatever you got, whatever issue you have. But just give me a $500 note over here, a couple notes, a couple greens, and I will cure you from any disease. Whatever you want. You want your wife back? I can bring her back to you. You want your children to love you again? I will sort that out for you. You want money? I can get that for you. And we have Muslims going to these people. Most of them are not even Muslim, the people that they go to. And this is something that's very, very dangerous. You're playing with your religion with fire. This is something that can take you out of the fold of Islam, my brothers and sisters. No one has power other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And nothing can afflict you except through the will and ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes for you, that's what's going to happen. No one can do that fix for you. Now, the hadith continues. This advisor of the king goes back and sits with the king. He goes to the king, this advisor, he's still part of the royal court. So he goes and sits with the king. And then the king, looking around, and the king then says, فَقَالَ لَهُ الْمَلِكُ مَنْ رَدَّ عَلَيْكَ بَصَرَكَ. The king sees something's off. You can see now, right? It's kind of obvious. So he said, who has returned to you your eyesight? You were blind before this. Who did this? Who sorted this out for you? What happened? فَقَالَ رَبِّي. The advisor of the king, he said, my Lord. In one of the narrations, he says, Ana? He says, me? I did this? Because he thought he was a deity. He thought he was king. He thought he was a god. He says, I did this? I didn't know I did that. Right? It's news to me. I did this. And in this narration, Sahih Muslim, he says, قَالَ وَلَكَ رَبٌّ غَيْرِي. Do you have a deity other than me? The nerve on this guy. Right? Do you have any Lord other than me? I'm your Lord. I never did this. So you have someone else other than me, huh? That's the tone. That's the tone that he's coming with. You have someone you worship other than me? And then, what did he reply, this advisor? He only has been a Muslim perhaps not even a full day. He's just believed. And the only thing he knows is that this boy told me to believe in Allah, a deity, right? And that deity cured me. I believe in him. But in the sight of this king, in this tyrant's face, who thought he was a god, he says, قَالَ رَبِّي وَرَبُّكَ اللَّهِ. My Lord, your Lord is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't try. You are not a god. My Lord, your Lord is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the king used the only tactic that the tyrants know. Throughout time, they tortured him. And they continued to torture him and beat him until they continued to ask, where did you learn this? Where did you take this from? Until he gave the name up of who? The young boy. He said, this boy, he taught me, and he's the one that did this under the pressure of torture. Now, this boy gets called to the king. You have to understand, first he was the golden prodigy, right? The golden child. He was supposed to be the king's next right-hand man. So then what does the king say? Ya bunay, O my young son, قد بلغ من سحرك ما تبرئ الأكمه والأبرص وتفعل وتفعل. He says, has your magic reached such a level where you can now cure sicknesses and do whatever you do? You are now curing eyesight and leprosy and whatever you want to do, you can do that now? Your magic has gotten so strong? And then the boy replies, قال لا أشفي أحدا. I don't cure anybody. إنما يشفي الله تعالى. I don't cure anyone. The one who cures is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He could have just said, yeah, can you make me your right hand man? Now I can be your sharik. We can do this together. We can make it happen. We can do whatever you want. We got a direct link. He could have done it. He could have taken the easy road. No, it wasn't me. It was another guy. It was another guy. It wasn't me. It could have been someone else. He could have done it. No one would have known. Right? He could have been like, yeah, your magic's really strong. Yeah. Right? But he didn't. He said no. He took that stance. Patience upon what? He doesn't even know what's coming. What happens next? He continues to torture him and abuse him and beat him until what? He gives up who? The worshipper. The one thing the worshipper asked, don't give me up. You're going to be abused, you're going to be trialed, don't give me up. But under the pressure of torture, he gives up the who? The worshipper. The one who first gave him this da'wah. Then, Ji'a bir-rahib. This worshipper was brought to the king. فَقِيلَ لَهُ ارْجِعْ عَنْ دِينِكَ. Move away, leave off your faith. The worshipper was then asked, either come back to our way or else. So what happens? فَأَبَى. He refused. So what did the king do? He got a saw that was giant in nature and he placed it above his head. And imagine a giant saw. You know what a saw is? You know what you cut wood with? And he put it above his head and they began to saw until he became two. But he did not leave off his faith. Then the close companion of the king was brought and he was asked, leave your faith. Turn away from this Islam. Turn away from Islam. Stop being a Muslim. Every day we're getting put with these choices in front of our faces. But has anyone done that under the threat of death? After you've seen someone just being split in two. Right now you'll take any shortcut to leave, right? Any shortcut. Oh no, I'm not. But over here, he just saw someone being split in two. And he sees probably the blood still dripping from the saw. And then he is brought forward and he is told, leave your faith, and he refuses. And then he is put under the saw. Leave your faith, and he refuses. And then to him is done the same. The saw is split in his skull and split his body in two. Then after he doesn't leave his faith and he dies in this way, then the child is brought. This young boy is brought, but he doesn't want to do this to him. This is the point of problem, Halla, right? Because he's the one who's famous. The rahib, no one knew about him. The worshipper, no one knows that he's the one who gave this boy da'wah, right? The close companion of the king, no one knew that this person here is a close companion. He's a Muslim too. He's just collateral damage, right? You just get rid of him, khalas. No one knows about him. He just got cured by a guy, by a kid. So what's his problem? He just died, khalas. But the people know about this boy. So he wants to make sure that he tries to make a point to make sure that this boy leaves the faith. So what does he do? He tells some of his companions, his soldiers, to take this boy up until a mountain that they knew that was very, very high. And they brought the boy to the top of the mountain. And the king said to them that when you're at the top, give him an option. Leave your faith, or we're going to throw you off this mountain. We're going to kill you. So they take him, long walk to a mountain, and they get to the top. And this boy makes a simple dua. A simple dua. He makes the dua to the Prophet, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says, Allahumma kfinihim bima shit. Allahumma kfinihim bima shit. Oh Allah, protect me from them in any way you see to be fit. In any way that you see to be fit, just protect me from them. Keep me away from them. Protect me, Ya Allah. So what happens? The mountain starts to tremble. An earthquake happens. At this specific point, the mountain begins to shake. And everyone other than him is thrown off the mountain. And they fall to their deaths. They all fall to their death, but only one is saved. The young boy. Subhanallah. The hadith continues. وَجَاءَ يَمْشِي إِلَى الْمَلِكِ. He comes walking back to the king. He could have gone anywhere else and no one would have known. He could have gone to a cave. He could have gone to another town. He could have gone anywhere in the world. He comes back walking straight back to the king. This is the type of iman that he had. He wanted the cause of what? He wanted to be the cause of Islam. And so he went back to the tyrant to his face. He went back to the point of problem and trying to fix this problem. He comes back walking to the king. And فَقَالَ لَهُ الْمَلِكِ. And the king says to him, مَا فَعَلَ أَصْحَابُكَ. What did your companions do to you? You got scared, huh? You went up to a mountain, your iman started to shake. Oh, I don't believe anymore. That's what he thought. He's saying it in a mockery way, right? In a way of mockery. What happened? What happened? You went up to a mountain with a few guys and khalas. What happened to your God? What did they do? Because think about it. What would be the reason for him to come back? They said, if he leaves his faith, bring him back. So they thought he's coming back. Khalas, he's left his religion. It's all good now. That's what the king's instruction was. If he leaves his faith, leave him alone. Let him come back. But if he doesn't, throw him off. So he's coming back. Khalas, 1 + 1 = 2. He's coming back. That means khalas, he left his faith. So then he asked, what did your companions do? And then he replies, كَفَانِيهِمُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected me from them. That's what happened. Allah protected me from them. So then king gets a bit angry and takes a step further. Mountain, it's surrounded with things. Problems can happen. So he sends another group of people with this boy and sends him in a little ship, in a little boat, and he says, now you go, take him. If he doesn't turn back from his faith, then take care of him. Take care of him. Throw him off. The boat capsizes after the young boy makes a simple dua. Allahumma kfinihim bima shit. Oh Allah, protect me from them through whatever way you see fit. How you see fit, protect me. They were in the middle of the ocean with a little boat. And the boat capsizes. It goes upside down. They all drown and he's still alive. And just how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected Yunus alayhi salam, he protected this boy from not drowning. And what does he do? وَجَاءَ يَمْشِي إِلَى الْمَلِكِ. He comes right back to the king walking. He walks right back to the king. Second time, get out of jail twice. Right? Scot-free. He could have gone anywhere else. But he takes a firm stance and he walks right back to the king. He walks right back to the king. And the king, again, now he thinks the same thing. فَقَالَ لَهُ الْمَلِكِ مَا فَعَلَ أَصْحَابُكَ. What did your companions do with you, huh? You went with my little friends. They took you to the ship. That means, khalas, he's come back, he's returned from his faith. And then he replies, كَفَانِيهِمُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected me from them. He sufficed me from them. He was enough for me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sorted it out. Again, constantly addressing that it's not me. Allah is on my side. Allah is the one who's protecting me. Allah is the one who is doing this. Then he says to the king, فَقَالَ لِلْمَلِكِ إِنَّكَ لَسْتَ بِقَاتِلِي حَتَّى تَفْعَلَ مَا آمُرَكَ بِهِ. He says, you are not going to be able to kill me until you do as I tell you to do. You want to kill me? I'm going to tell you how you're going to kill me, but you have to listen to me in how you're going to kill me. Who's putting himself up for sacrifice, but with a clause. You're only going to kill me with a specific way. I'm going to tell you how you're going to get rid of me. And then he says, the king says to him, قَالَ مَا هُوَ? What is it? What's this way? How am I going to get rid of you? How am I going to kill you? He says, تَجْمَعُ النَّاسَ فِي صَعِيدٍ وَاحِدٍ وَتَصْلُبُنِي عَلَى جِدْعٍ ثُمَّ خُذْ سَهْمًا مِنْ كِنَانَتِي. He says, gather all the people, gather them all on one single plain, on one place where they can all see, and tie me up to what? A stump of a tree. And then get an arrow from what? My actual pouch of arrows. From my quiver of arrows. Not your arrows, not my arrows. Get my arrow from my bow, from my arrows, and that is what you are going to use. He says, take that arrow, put it in the middle of your bow, and then say, ثُمَّ قُلْ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ رَبِّ الْغُلَامِ. He says, when you are going to shoot your arrow, say, in the name of Allah, the Lord of this young boy, in front of the people. But in the name of Allah, the Lord of this young boy. That means it's not going to be me. He's literally saying, by the name of Allah. Who is who? The Lord of this boy. And then, that's what happens. He gets all the people, puts them on one path, on one plane, في صعيد واحد, on one place. He gets the boy, ties him to a tree, then gets an arrow from his quiver, from his pouch of arrows, gets the bow, and then says in front of all the people, he says what? Bismillah, in the name of Allah, the Lord of the boy. And then shoots the arrow, and it lands on his temple. It lands on his head, and his hand fell, the boy's hands fell on his head, and then he fell to his death. He fell to his death. Now everyone who witnessed this was there. They saw what he had to do, what he had to say. So they all started to say, آمنا برب الغلام. We have all believed in the Lord of this young boy. We don't believe in you, we believe in the Lord of the boy. He did this to sacrifice himself for what? For da'wah. For the sake of making sure that they had only La ilaha illallah. There is no deity worthy of worship except Allah. This person was claiming to be a god, and he was unable to kill a young boy. Young boy, he was not able to kill him. So over here, all of the people had embraced Islam. Now, the problem with this was, the people who were still close to the king, they said, you were fearful of the religion spreading from 3 people. Now everyone's a Muslim. Everyone's a Muslim now. Everyone who witnessed it is now a Muslim. Problem. You just had 3 people, now you got all of them against you. So then he does what any tyrant would do as their last step. He gets something dug up, a pit. Not a trench, a pit, something very, very deep, a ditch. And what he does was, he puts firewood there and makes a large flame. And his army surrounds the flame. And one by one, every person who is there, who is a believer, is going to be thrown into this flame if they do not abandon their faith. Every single one who is not going to leave Islam is going to be thrown into this ditch of fire. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ. Cursed are the people of the ditch. The ones who made the ditch, they are cursed. Now over here, my brothers and sisters, something that is important is that they had lined every single person up and gave them one option: leave your faith or die. And one by one they died. They were thrown into the fire one by one. Some of the narrations that have been mentioned say that it could have been up to, Allahu a'lam, 70,000 people. Up to 70,000 people in one day, killed one by one. And the hadith continues and says the last of them was a lady. They came to finally one lady who had a baby child, a baby in her hand. And as she was coming, she's seen everyone else before her dying. Everyone before her plunged into the fire. And she started to hesitate. She started to hesitate. She's got a kid in her hand. She's holding her baby. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then instructs the baby to talk. And the hadith continues, and this is in Sahih Muslim. This hadith is authentic. The hadith continues. فقال لها الغلام يا أمه اصبري فإنك على الحق. He says, "Oh my mother, as a baby child, be patient because you are upon truth." And they were thrown into the fire, and that concludes the story of the boy and the king. My brothers and sisters, in this story is something that is very important, that when you are upon Tawheed, don't think that this matter is easy. Trials and tribulations will come your way. Trials and tribulations will come your way. Now, this ummah, this nation, has one thing that the previous nations didn't have. There are some khasa'is of this ummah that other nations didn't have. And from them is that if you are in a state of life and death, then you are able to leave and say statements that may be detrimental to your faith under the condition your heart be upon complete iman. And this is taken from the story of Ammar ibn Yasir, when he witnessed both of his parents dying in front of him, Sumayya and who? Abu Yasir. Yasir. Sumayya and Yasir. And the way that he saw his mother die, Abu Jahl, what he did, we got kids here, but there was a spear that impaled her. She was made to sit on a spear while she was not sitting. He saw that as a young boy. He saw his parents murdered, the first martyrs of Islam. So all they said, okay, don't leave your faith, just say something bad about Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And we know this is kufr, right? We know this is something that is disbelief. If you utter a statement against the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but he said it after witnessing his parents dying. And then revelation came that his heart was filled with iman, and this was a specific rukhsa, a specific thing that was there for this nation. However, not everyone has this benefit, especially the ulama, the scholars, and those who are seen with the light of deen. So for instance, in the time of Imam Ahmad, when there was a fitna of the creation of the Quran, where the Khalifa himself was forcing people to say that the Quran is created, not Allah's word. Say that if you want to say it's Allah's word, yes, but say that it's created. Don't say that it's uncreated. Say that it's created. We know this is not the position of As-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. This is the position of the Jahmiyyah and others. But the people who were excused from this were the lay people, the ones who were under the force of death, under the force of pressure. But Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he was whipped, lashed, and put to the point of death, but he never took a step back from his statement of truth. Other scholars that did this, right? Imam Ahmad rahimahullah never spoke to them again. After two Khalifas after this issue, then one Khalifa came and took on the position of Ahl Sunnah and allowed this to spread throughout the lands. But the people who sold out under what? Being put under trial and pressure from the scholars. Like Yahya ibn Ma'in, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah refused to talk to them. Period. These were people like brothers. Like brothers. But why? Is because if every one of the scholars sell out, if every scholar, not one scholar remains upon Tawheed, proper Islam, then how will the people know what is true and what is not? If a Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for instance, under pressure, said, Khalas, no worries, it is what you want, then how would we know Islam? How would we know the faith? So those who are upon positions of authority, they need to ensure that they do not sell out regardless of what happens to them. And this is something that is a mas'uliyah, it's a responsibility, and it is not easy. It is not easy, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His protection, Ya Rabb. Over here, my brothers and sisters, this story, I know it's a bit long, we've gone over a bit of time, but this is a story that is mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Buruj, and it is mentioned in 3 parts of the Sunnah. Now, the additions that we had, I mentioned previously that his family would hit him. This wasn't mentioned in Tirmidhi, it was actually mentioned in the narration of Imam Ahmad, and I was going to fix it then, but it would have ruined the story. But inshallah, we'll take questions after this. Barakallahu feekum. If anyone has any issues or any questions, sisters, you can do it on the Facebook Live of Masjid Sunnah. Barakallahu feekum. Sallallahu ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll take questions from here as well, inshallah. Bismillah. La ilaha illa ant. Question?